Okay, so what we're going to talk about now is found on, says research final paper outline. We went over the first part of this last week, and that's recorded, but we went over title, abstract, problem, population, issues, significance, quantitative, qualitative, um, and I guess the only other thing we should mention is you can have a combination of both qualitative and quantitative on that. We talked a little bit about that. So right now, I want to spend some time going over the lit review. And remember, the assignment goes up to, so what the assignment, the literature review, goes up to here. So you stop at definitions, and it includes basically this whole first part. So that's what you're going to hand in for the literature review assignment. And like I've said previously, the good part about this is, yes, it's a lot of work. I think it's due week 9, if I'm correct. And but the majority of the writing for your paper will be complete. Uh, you won't have to work on the entire thing at the end of the semester because it's such a large project. So for the end of the semester, you're just going to finish these topics, and we're going to go over those later. You're going to create your model and propose a study, basically. And then, we'll share whatever you'd like the last class. So let's look at the literature review part of this. So for every one of these sections, you're going to have an intro paragraph. The intro paragraph basically says, this is what I'm going to introduce to you in this section, okay? So this is the literature review section. We're going to look at a little bit of the history of the issue, and then we're going to look at what we call research questions. So let's talk about the concept of research questions first. You can either have a hypothesis or a null hypothesis, but I think that's more for like experimental studies, like more scientific studies. So we're going to use the other option, which is research questions. And these are the most widely used and accepted research questions for those who are trying to address an issue with a new model. And so let's look at each one of these research questions. So some of these research questions, so each one of these, like I said, you can use each one of the parts of this outline as kind of titles for each section or subsection of your paper, okay? So the only thing you'd have to change is, let's see. So the topic we used last week was the effects of codependency on adolescent students. So if we were going to use that as an example, we could say, what has already been done, and then you include your topic to address issues of codependency in adolescents. If you want, you can divide these questions. So you can divide this into three subsections. So what's been done in counseling or psychology to address the issue of codependency? What's been done to address the issue of problems with adolescent relationships? And then you can combine those two things, because maybe not a lot has been done for codependency in adolescents. Maybe you didn't find a lot. So you might have to separate the topics and be general at first, and then combine them. So, I think if you're not finding a lot with your total topic, you might have to separate it into different parts, just so you'll have enough to write about. If you for instance, if you separated this into codependency, you would have tons to write about, and then you're just going to think later, okay, what am I going to take about what's been done with codependency? What do I think would work well with that age group, adolescents? And what could be used in schools, or what can be used in clinical mental health? So, with that in mind, you can glean whatever you want to use from that for your model later on. So I think, the first thing is what's been done so far to help this population, basically, whatever your population is, whatever your issue is that you want to address. What's been done so far? And you want to cite articles that you found that provides us information. And once again, this is, I would rather you paraphrase and put it in your own words and just cite the end of whatever you paraphrased. I would rather you do that than quote what somebody else said. Unless it's just so good, you just can't come up with your own paraphrase. So it's just so easy, just cutting and pasting and quoting. But when you submit this and you look at the Turnitin percentage, and that's a percentage of what is copied from other papers. Now, I'm not talking just plagiarism, it counts quotes as well. So even though that's totally legal and acceptable and you can do it, I would rather a lower percentage of other people's work and a higher percentage of your own words. So I'm not saying you can't quote anything. I'm just saying that I'd rather you put things in your own words and then cite it, at the end of that concept. That tells me that you understand the concept, all right. So what's been done so far? And like I said, you might have to divide your topic into points. So just like I use the example, could be codependency, adolescent relationships, maybe something else. And you can put it together at the end and see, maybe there's been a couple articles on that. Maybe it is mentioned in a book, but maybe it's not a lot. So this should be one of the larger sections in the Lit Review, because it's all about what's been done already. Now, you want to look specifically for other theories and models that people have used to treat whatever issue you're dealing with. How well did that work? Was it significant? Did it have a high success rate? Did it help these people? Or maybe it didn't. And at the end, when you create a model later on in the semester, you'll take the best ideas and maybe add some of your own to it to create a more comprehensive model. So That's the biggest section of the lit review, you know. And you should be looking at like 3 or 4 different applications with multiple articles on each application. Like CBT is going to be an easy one, okay? That's fairly common for every issue there because it's an easy one to research. It's short-term therapy, brief therapy. They usually find some significant results. One of the problems is it deals with irrational thoughts, but it might not deal with the deeper issue at hand. So you want to find a couple other theories beyond CBT as well, but you can certainly use CBT. Just don't only use CBT. You know, find a couple other things that have been used as well. Okay, the second section, what's worked? Okay, so you're going to take some of the things that have been used and talk about the ones that were most successful. This is a little shorter because you're going to talk about mostly what's been used in that first section. This is like 2 paragraphs. What's worked? How is it significant? Perhaps we can use this in the future. Okay. The short, so what has worked? That's going to be multiple pages. Okay. So let's say you find 3 different theories that have been used quite a bit. We'll be talking like 1 or 2 pages per theory. So if you have 3 theories, we're looking at about maybe 5 or 6 pages right there. That's the biggest part of this section. What's worked, you're just following up and talking about the best of in that first section. What hasn't worked? We have to ask this question in a lit review, but it's going to be very short because journals don't want to publish things that don't work. They'd rather publish things that do work. And, you know, even though I think somebody does a study and, they find out their idea doesn't work, I think that's a great study. Just because it didn't work, it rules out something. So you're not wasting your time trying the same thing. You're like, oh, they've tried that, it doesn't work. I don't have to do that. But journals don't really like publishing that. The way you're going to find this, and you might not, and that's okay. The way you're going to find this is if a journal article compares 2 different theories. Like, let's see which one works better. Okay, we used person-centered with the first group, and we used CBT with the second group, and one of them did not show significance, and the other one did. So that's how you're going to find one that doesn't really work that well. They're going to try comparing a couple of them and seeing which one worked better. If you can't find any articles on things that don't work, that's acceptable. There might not be any articles on that, but you still have to write a short paragraph and you can say something like, after an extensive literature review, no articles were found that discuss theories that don't work on when working with this population. So you still have to write something, but you have to answer the question. But it might be you didn't find anything, and that's okay for this section. The other sections, you should be able to find something, okay? Okay, so the next question is basically, and remember, you can use these as subsection titles. So the main section's going to be lit review, and your subsection's going to be research question number 1, which will be what's been done to address the issue of whatever your issue is. So the next one was what may work from other areas in the field. So in the field of counseling. So I think this is the most creative and interesting section. So let's say, and we'll just keep using our example of codependency in adolescent relationships. Let's say you present this issue and you find some common criteria or symptomology that most people experience who also experience the general concept of codependency in adolescence. So some of the criteria might be, and I'm just making this up, adolescents in codependent relationships are less successful in school, in academics. They tend to be experience more anxiety because of an unhealthy relationship, and that anxiety might extend to other areas of their life. If the relationships go bad, they might experience some forms of minor depression. They might miss school, so truancy might be a reason. There may be some even more severe things like teen pregnancy or something like that, or school dropout rates. So when you think about, okay, these are all the symptoms of this issue, you can make a list of them. And maybe you can look at theories that have addressed those symptoms. Okay, so maybe there's not a lot that have addressed codependency in adolescence, but maybe there's a lot that have addressed various forms of anxiety in adolescent relationships. That's a symptom. Or depression in adolescent as a result of adolescent relationships, or unhealthy adolescent relationships, or problems in academics due to unhealthy adolescent relationships or school dropout. So you can be a little creative and see what's been done to address the symptoms of the issue you want to work on. So that's a little more complicated. You got to be a little creative with that thought process. And the last one, this is something that maybe you think will work. So, maybe you want to include something from mindfulness, or maybe you want to do, let's see, equestrian therapy, or maybe you want to try wilderness therapy, or I don't know, whatever you're into that you think might work with this population that hasn't been done yet or hasn't been studied yet. Maybe it's been done, but maybe there's no journal articles on it. But maybe it's just something that you're really interested in doing and you think it might work with this population, whatever it is. So if you want to include something new, you can't just say, oh, this hasn't been done yet, but I think it'll work. You have to talk about why you think it would work. You have to talk about, oh, well, this has shown high efficacy in maybe some of the symptomology that your population experiences, or who really knows? You can let's see. The camera's going a little crazy. All right. So, I think that there is a whole, maybe I wasn't sharing there. Should let me know. All right. So, yeah. So these questions are what we're talking about right here. this section right here. Okay. And, you know, so you just can't throw something in there. You have to back it up with some research. Okay. So, all right. So this is the end of the big assignment, you know, your lit review assignment. And like I said before, starts with your title page, goes all the way down to here, and it also includes your references at the end. Okay? So, any questions? We've covered pretty much the assignment. So, any questions about the assignment, or even if you want to bring up your topic, and we can kind of talk through it if you want. Any questions about, oh, how could I apply this question to my topic? What would I look up? You know, whatever you need. How's everybody doing online? You getting all this?
Yep.
Okay. Britt, sound like you're dying, man. Well, that's not good.
It's not, I'm not contagious, so it's not.
All right. Okay, so if there are no questions, we're going to end this section.